This episode not only was everything that I was hoping for, but it even surpassed my expectations. And it even threw in a few shocker twists in there as well. Y'all, I am just happy that this episode was a thing, and I'm excited to just go ahead and talk about it. First of all, you know this episode is about to be hot fire when they play the opening theme song in a fight in the very beginning of the episode. That's right, as Masumi shows up to a fading Vail, the fake-outs continue when Vail snatches up the nice new Vice stamp and gets the juice needed to continue the fight. And the fight, for as short as it was pretty damn dynamic. However, all good things must come to an end, and it appears that the side effects of that brand new Vice stamp weren't what Vail was hoping for. Oh yeah, Hana lost the fight to Daiji, which is odd because she was OP as hell previously, and the plot armor with a capital L decided to favor our winged soy boy this time. Masumi on death's door has a flashback to young George. The awkward thing about this scene is that they bring back the actor who portrayed young Masumi in the Vail special, but they dub over him with old Masumi's voice. Which, in the original flashbacks, you did hear old Masumi's voice, but technically that shouldn't have been a thing, but whatever. I'll go ahead and let that slide. He meets up with Vail, who knew that he laced up the Vice stamp with a strand that just hit different. He presents Vail with a shiny new crimson Vice stamp, which surely will make my wallet cry when I buy it. Originally, Vail is suspicious of the Vice stamp. However, Masumi assures him that this will allow him to properly settle the score with Genta, especially since it was his fault for making him to begin with. Meanwhile, soy boy lover Akaishi is dealing with 5 levels of final forms, and by that I mean dust. Frustrated at past civilizations failing to bend the knee to GIFFU and his own immortality, he sulks as Daiji watches. George, out of character, calls ahead of debuting his new driver in a suitcase. Usually he just shows up, but nope, he tells Iki ahead of time. Sakura overhears and is told that Genta ordered his driver be upgraded to fight Vail. She's against it, but that's when Mama-chan chimes in. See, Genta has already had 3 transformations in life without having to become a Kamen Rider, and every single time was one of his kids. This is the episode that we actually needed for Father's Day, y'all. I'm just saying. The reaffirmation gives Iki and Sakura confidence in their father, as George shows up 2 minutes after hanging up with Iki to present the revamped DeStream driver. They meet up with Genta, who has some great exposition in this scene. He's learned a lot from watching his kids fight. The relationship between Iki and Vice was especially notable, as it reflects what could have been between him and Vail. They never really got a true heart-to-heart or conflict resolution, and thus the resentment just grew. He sees this same resentment in Daiji and feels that the only way to course correct a son who's fallen is to be the example he needs to be as their father. To combine those L's into the dub category. He leaves a voicemail for Daiji only for wannabe daddy Akaishi to get his jimmies rustled by stroking him. Daiji's had enough of this old ass man and tells him to just go play with himself. And he spills the tea in the process. Literally. A heartwarming moment is shared between Genta and Yukimi that seems very reminiscent to what we got in the Vail specials. Apologizing to her for giving her a life like this, though technically, she's the one that kind of forced this on him, but you know, we'll ignore that last episode of the Vail special. She goes ahead and dispels his doubts, and they have a very, very touching moment. Reinvigorated, it's time for the main event. The moment has arrived. It's all on the table. In this corner, backed by the scientist Kamen Rider otaku George Karizaki, rocking the bland clothing ensemble, the man with 2 subs on YouTube, all of which are his wife, an average viewer count of 1. You know him, I know him, the dad with the plan, it is Daddy Genta. In the opposing corner, backed by a different daddy, rocking the best color combination, a demon who peaked in his side special 25 years ago, but just won't quit. It's the one and only Vail. The Igarashi siblings, joined by Daiji, spectate, only to be taken by surprise by Akaishi. We get GIFFU up in the mix to take him on, which leads to a glorious defeat that brings Akaishi into Orphenoched levels of dusting. Daiji tried getting in on things, but Sakura brings him to his senses. He shouldn't be concerned with catching more L's and see the true dub unfold in front of him. Also, side apologies because it's now raining outside, so you might hear some background noises. Back to the main event. Vail is the first to showcase off his new self. Without the need of a driver, he stamps himself with the Crimson Vice stamp, unleashing the best suit in Revice and making it even better. Crimson Vail has made his appearance. Genta with the new DeStream driver that no longer has Vail's voice in it, but the same voice as Revice, two-side driver, and half of Libra, transforms. Stamping the Vice stamp similar to how Junpei does it in the Vail specials, which usually looks like a form of self-sacrifice, in turn gives him wings to the Spirit Up dialogue. This gives rise to a cocoon metamorphosis, which reminds me a lot of Black's first transformation, with a view more of like an insect form that melds into the final product. This in itself is great symbolism for Genta's own growth as a character. The fighting begins, and y'all, this is like the rawest motherfucking fight in this whole ass fucking show. The pyrotechnics that are going off from the first punch, 10 out of 10, perfection. The raw emotion between the two. This was indeed full-on shonen anime levels of communication through your fists. The feels get unveiled when they hit you with the ending music from the Vail special during the fight. Genta showcases a couple of new armaments with the Crocodile Komodo Dragon and even showing off the compatibility with the Kong Vice stamp when not used by Revice. The fight hits peak emotions when we see them symbolically fight through the burning happy spa. It's almost a callback to Iki's struggle with Vice back in episode 28. They end things with a 1-2 combo of each other's punches followed by kick. Vail is ultimately beaten and DeStream's form starts to crumble as well. In an unforeseen turn of events, Genta uses the Crimson Vice stamp to capture Vail and stamp himself with it, making amends with him so that they continue to live. Although Genta may no longer be Junpei, Vail should also just let go of his past. They come to an understanding. He goes over to Daiji to show him exactly what a dub looks like. As this goes on, Masumi praises George once more for being able to keep showcasing off his growth and overcoming him. The emotions hit for George as Masumi finally dies for real this time. Everything comes to a distract moment when all of a sudden GIFFU finally makes his walking debut. So with this episode, we have two retooled suits serving new roles. So it's time to talk the forms. First up, we have Crimson Vail. He's not a writer, but like original Shadow Moon is also not a common writer, this works for him. Using the Crimson Vice stamp that already makes me want to take my rolling Vice stamp and throw it in the garbage, they took the best suit in Kamen Rider Revice and lost the blue, gained the red, and finished it off by dropping the driver and repainting Vice's regular belt. They also added some new chesticles to it, so you know what? 10 out of 10. Now we have DeStream. Let's talk about that driver first. They retooled the Vail driver by adding two new side pieces that, very similar to Revice's 50, have a 25 on the driver. This can have three possible meanings for it. First, of course, is just that 25 is half of 50, which 25 in itself is usually considered a major milestone for a lot of franchises. Second would be that 25 years ago would be the ending of the Vail special, and when Vail was sealed up and Junpei became Genta. Third would be episode 25 of Revice, which was actually Kamen Rider Vail's debut and Genta's first on-screen henshin. Usually, I'm not a big fan of blue and red together like this, but it actually works and effectively. I'm just upset that realistically, I'm probably going to end up having to buy two of these drivers, one to showcase off in Vail form and another to showcase off in DeStream form. And as a Toku fan, I will never financially recover. Alright, let's get on to the suit itself. When I first saw it, I said RIP to Kamen Rider Sentry, as it reuses the undersuit of Sentry down to the arm and leg armors. There's repaints on the accents, but yeah, it's all there. The helmet is also a reworked Demon's helmet. Since you can see the bumps of the original helmet's eyes on the sides, they've just been painted over. The chest piece with the whole look to it is actually very badass. The suit is designed as a complete contrast with Vail, so the design actually works. Even if it is a retool, it's probably the best use of reworked assets this show has had to offer. When I make the Kamen Rider Revice tier list, who gets first is gonna be an absolute bloodbath. Rating time! It's no secret that this episode is the best Revice has had to offer in ages. Ages, I say. This is objectively the best episode in the series so far. So much so that we're gonna have to roll past the Super 1 tier and move heaven and earth. Tendayo, Shigayo, strongest, stronger, S tier. Genta is the background lead up to the events of the series. This revelation played out amazingly back in episode 25, and this was just left on the back burner for so long. I had honestly given up hope that this day would ever come. But then we got it, and boy, was it a ride. I was grinning the whole time watching this episode, except for the moments when they actually hit me with the feels and the feels music. Dealing with everything his children are going through, and knowing that he has a part in not just causing what's happening, but leading them down the right path, Genta takes matters into his own hands. And before doing so, gets the approval from his family to do so. He checked all the boxes on what it means to not just be a strong character, but truly a Kamen Rider. Genta's story reflects a long game version of Showa riders. Being one who is transformed and manipulated by an evil organization, rebels against them, but in turn creates a larger threat. Not having the full hero arrives late moment until 25 years after. It was a long overdue and welcome story that needed and had to be shared. This episode shows the epitome of family struggles and a parent's role in showing their kin how it's done. However, it takes a step beyond that, as we see from Genta and Masumi that they have learned that their kids are capable of so much more. Masumi fully acknowledges George in this regard before he dies. George as a character frankly needed this. Originally, he debuted as someone arrogant to outdo his father since he died before he could see his greatness. When he found out that his father was alive, he felt like it was a step back for him as a character, and now was getting outclassed by the old guard. This only to realize that there was meaning to all of his actions. I desperately want George to return to the fray once again, since his character deserves it and is one of the better characters in the show. Daiji, seeing his dad find proper realizations with the worst of demons, showed that he went about his struggles with Kagero the wrong way. He didn't have the chance to properly make amends, and this would be the key to him finally having his second try. My only fear with this episode, and I hope it's not the case, is that DeStream, as far as this show concerned, might be a one and done situation. Two things to note on that. When George opens up the briefcase, we get a slight description of the driver. It reads, "Be careful with this system. Have the potential to lead to dangerous situations." The form itself could be pretty unstable, as when the finishing blow is struck, cracks on the suit start to form before he unhenshins. I need this suit back, especially for a final episode family henshin. I just need it. So it's clear that I absolutely loved this episode. This is probably my longest review for Revice thus far. But can next week's Walking GIFFU outdo it? What are your thoughts on this week's episode of Revice? The feels, the rawness. Daiji, seeing what dubs look like. I look forward to sharing all the hype about this episode in the comments. Until next time, bye.